Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking the code on some of the absolute strangest, most fascinating spots you'll find on any world map. You know, the ones that just don't seem to make sense at first glance.
All right, so to get our heads around this, let's start with a bit of a puzzle. It's one that connects some really distant places in a way you probably wouldn't expect.
I mean, think about it. On the surface, these places seem to have absolutely nothing in common, right? You've got a massive US state way up north, a French-speaking province in Canada, and communities all the way over in the Balkans. But believe it or not, they all share this one really fascinating geopolitical curiosity.
And that's what we're talking about. They're all what you could call geopolitical pockets. Now, these aren't just weird lines on a map. No way. They're actually living, breathing stories of history, culture, conflict, and diplomacy. And to really get what they're all about, we've got to learn their special names.
Okay, so this brings us to the two key terms that really unlock this whole concept. And once you get the difference between these two, the world map starts to make a whole new kind of sense. It's pretty cool.
All right, here it is, laid out side by side. On the one hand, you've got the enclave. Now, this is all about the people. It's a distinct cultural or ethnic group living completely inside another larger territory. Then you've got the exclave. This one is purely about the land. It's a piece of a country that's physically cut off from the main part.
So that's really the key thing to remember. It's all about perspective. One is about culture, the other is about territory. You can think of it like this. An enclave is a cultural island, while an exclave is a geographical one. Simple as that.
So first, let's really zoom in on this idea of the enclave, a territory within. And I love that analogy of a cultural island, because that's exactly what it is. It's this little pocket of one culture completely surrounded by the sea of a different, much larger one.
So yeah, the definition is pretty straightforward. You have a minority culture group all concentrated inside a country that's dominated by a totally different, bigger culture group. It's kind of like a nation within a nation, when you think about it.
And you can see this play out on all different scales. It can be super local, like ethnic neighborhoods you might find in a big city. It can be massive, like the entire province of Quebec, with its unique French-speaking culture right inside English-speaking Canada. And then you have really complex examples, like the Serb, Croat, and Muslim communities that were established inside Bosnia.
And you know, this brings up a really important point. Enclaves don't always just happen naturally over time. Sometimes they're deliberately created. Take Bosnia. The 1994 Dayton Peace Accords actually created these enclaves on purpose as a way to separate warring communities and, well, try to bring about peace. So they can be a tool of diplomacy, born directly from conflict.
Okay, so we've got enclaves down. Now let's switch gears and talk about exclaves. This is a territory apart. And if enclaves are all about culture, exclaves are purely about geography. It's all about the political lines on our map and physical separation.
So what this means is that a country owns a chunk of land that, well, it can't get to, not without crossing through another country's territory first. And here's a super important detail. Islands don't count. This is only for pieces of land separated by other land.
And man, the world is just full of these things once you start looking. You've got famous ones like Alaska and tiny little Point Roberts for the US. There's Russia's super strategic Kaliningrad Oblast. Down in Africa, you have the Cabinda province of Angola. And then there are even two Spanish cities, Ceuta and Melilla, that are actually on the African continent. They're all over the place.
Alaska is probably the example most people know. It's the perfect large-scale exclave. It is absolutely 100% part of the United States, but you just can't drive there from, say, Washington State without going through a whole lot of Canada first. It's totally disconnected.
And then there's Kaliningrad. Now this is a fascinating one. It's a piece of Russia, right? But it's totally separated from the mainland, sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania. This makes it a place of huge strategic importance for Russia. It's home to their Baltic fleet, and it's a key military outpost, completely surrounded by EU and NATO countries. You can imagine that makes it a pretty tense spot on the map sometimes.
Okay, so these are cool little quirks on a map, for sure. Little bits of trivia. But so what? Why do these pockets actually matter? What kind of impact do they have on the real world?
Well, for one thing, they don't just pop into existence. These pockets are almost always the scars or the signatures of big historical events. They're born out of armed conflicts over land and identity that leads to high-stakes diplomatic negotiations, and eventually the new boundaries get locked in through peace treaties, or in some cases through straight-up land purchases, like how the US bought Alaska.
And really, this gets to the heart of why they matter.
Understanding these geopolitical pockets is actually key to understanding a surprising amount of modern international relations, because they can be a source of conflict, for sure. Think about disputes over territory or culture. But, and this is the fascinating part, they also force cooperation. Nations have to work together on everything from who can cross the border, to trade, to keeping the lights on. It's a really delicate balance.
So, that kind of leaves us with one big question to think about, doesn't it? In a world that's getting more and more connected every single day, through the internet, through global trade, what purpose do these historical, sometimes strange-looking borders really serve anymore? What do they mean for our shared future?